Sometimes if you want to avoid spoilers for a movie, don't watch the trailer. But if you really want to avoid spoilers for this movie, don't look at the title. It's all there, really. Lone Survivor is written and directed by Peter Berg and stars Mark Wahlberg, Taylor Kitsch, Ben Foster, and Emil Hirsch. Emil. And Lone Survivor is based on the true story of Operation Red Wings, which was a failed Navy SEALs op back in the day, wherein 4 Navy SEALs were sent into Afghanistan. But when the SEALs get to Afghanistan, they find that they're completely outnumbered, and their whole op is compromised, and they find themselves fighting against this huge army, and it's just 4 of them. Just gotta get out alive. Now, I honestly wasn't that interested in this movie until it was nominated for 2 Oscars, which were sound editing and sound mix. Now, how can I describe my experience watching Lone Survivor? It's intense, man. Like, that's the best way I can describe it. This movie is intense. This movie is about 2 hours long, and pretty much the entire last half of this movie is one huge action sequence, and it's just completely no holds barred. It's crazy, really. And I guess I'm gonna start with sound because it was nominated for that, and I tell you, it was nominated for a reason. The sound here is really, really good. What I mean by this is, like, you know how you've heard machine gun fire in movies like a billion times already, but here in Lone Survivor, every bullet fired really feels like a punch. Like, it just feels so painful, really. And what this does, because there's so much machine gun fire going around and RPGs and snipers and stuff, like, it really does make this whole warfare thing feel scary again. And this movie takes place like pretty much on a mountainside for half the time, and really all the little sounds like leaves crackling and a branch breaking and stuff like that really adds to the immersion of it all. And there's something oddly beautiful about the way this movie is filmed, like the cinematography. It's so clean. Like, there's a surprising lack of grit in like the way it's shot. I mean, most of this movie again is filmed in daylight, and that's kind of interesting to me because we're so used to big firefights happening in like darker places to kind of reflect the violence. But here, it's almost as if Peter Berg is showing us, this whole pristine landscape and stuff, and then when the violence hits, it makes it scarier because something so clean, suddenly there's just loudness and terror and stuff. I gotta give kudos to the makeup people. Like, they made me believe that Mark Wahlberg and his friends were bleeding and in horrible pain in this movie. So good job for making my stomach turn. And acting wise, the actors here, they do what they do well, which is to act like squad and look absolutely terrified of their situation, but at the same time, still remain kind of stoic about it and kind of stay focused on their mission. And they carried that pretty well. And really, this whole movie rides on its last hour, its action sequence, and this is like you're balled up in your seat and you're just watching. And you're just terrified for the people's lives because they're getting hurt so bad. But their SEALs training makes them kind of get up after being shot multiple times, and they really have to keep going. So in your mind, you're thinking these guys have been shot multiple times, they've fallen down a mountain and stuff like that, and they still have to keep going. It just makes it feel really, really intense, and I like that. It's just completely relentless. However, as great as that last hour is, you still have to get through the first hour, and I kind of have a big problem with. See, Peter Berg, I can tell, really wanted to make this movie kind of like a realistic depiction of how these SEALs went about their op. It's not supposed to be character heavy and stuff, and that's fine with me. But when you spend the entire first hour of this movie kind of trying to show people the world the SEALs are in, it doesn't really succeed in doing that. I mean, I get it. I'm not criticizing the actual people who lost their lives there, which is terrible, but as characters, I mean, this is a movie after all. As characters, we still really don't know anything about them. Like, I didn't really know who was who by the time the battle started. You kind of do root for them just because, like, the stuff that happens to them looks really painful and you don't want to see more pain. So yeah, this first half is pretty slow and doesn't really add much to the characters and stuff. Like, I appreciate the effort, but at the end of the day, you really just remember this movie for the action scene. There's also something strange about the score. I mean, the score is made by the band Explosions in the Sky, who I know a lot of my friends really like. But there's something about their style of music, which is this really dreamlike, it's very delicate, ambient kind of music, and it kind of feels misplaced at parts. Like it's big warfare going on, and suddenly you have Explosions in the Sky in the background, and it's just a bit mismatched. Kind of took me out of the movie at points. And really, in the end, like, while I do again appreciate Peter Berg's attempt to show a realistic portrayal of these Navy SEALs, the action scene at the end, ultimately it doesn't feel that much like a personal battle, because again, you can't really connect too much to these characters. And so it does, however, show that Peter Berg is great at directing action, but I still kind of would have enjoyed the, know these characters by name and really know who they are. But at the end of the day, though, this is still like a gorgeous movie. It really is a great feat in like stunt coordination, action movie making, and stuff like that. And the last hour, while you still have to get through the first hour, it's not unwatchable, but the last hour really makes this worth it. So yeah, that is my review of The Lone Survivor. I just came from watching The Wolf of Wall Street, and I hopefully will be able to put up a video for that soon. But for now, tell me what you guys thought about Lone Survivor. If you agree, if you disagree with me, whatever you think, please leave a comment and let us have a conversation.